I get it, sweetie. You think you can't be hypnotized because you've got a naturally critical mind. You notice techniques like progressive muscle relaxation or trigger association. You're either too smart to be hypnotized, too strong to be hypnotized, or it's just not the way your mind works, right? I mean, maybe that's true. Maybe you really can't be hypnotized, but you're listening to a session specifically designed to hypnotize you, so at the very least, we can say that you're open to the idea, right? I want you to consider a quick story. In 1974, a plane was flying at 20,000 feet across Germany, which of course, at the time, was divided into West under the control of the Allies, and East under the control of the Soviets. For whatever reason, people still don't know why, the plane suffered catastrophic engine failure and crashed down in the demilitarized zone between the two halves. Obviously, it was quite the incident. There were passengers from both East and West on board. Where do you think they buried the survivors when they were recovered from the wreckage? Let that one stew for a while in the back of your mind. While it does, if you've ever checked out my wish list, and of course I'd encourage you to do so, you might have noticed that one of the items there is a Smeg toaster. Generally, I don't go in for retro looks, and it's way more expensive than it needs to be. But there's something about the smooth, plain styling of it, and the classic aluminum fixtures that just stands out to me, and always has. I love their fridges too. I can just imagine popping my toast in there on a morning, grabbing some milk from a big retro refrigerator, and having a relaxing morning snack. Do me a favor and think about what's wrong with that image. It's not the milk. God, I hope you're not one of these people that doesn't like milk, like you're a little kid scared of drinking anything that's not carbonated. It's not the price. You can't put a price on my happiness, and it's not the brand or the styling. What did I put in the toaster? I said toast, but of course it would have been bread. Toast is what comes out of it. Of course, you know full well that bread goes in and toast comes out. So if you'd stopped to think, then you would have realized something was amiss at the time. But you were listening to me paint a picture, and I distracted you with other things. Quick experiment here. Answer these questions out loud. Use your words. If you're not going to play, then of course I'm not going to be able to hypnotize you. That's not how it works. Indulge me. Answer these questions out loud. What color is snow? If I ask for a lingerie material that rhymes with ilk, you say, what's the opposite of black? What do cows drink? Did you say milk? But cows drink water, don't they? Here's my guess. Probably you did say milk, or at the least were about to, and stopped yourself at the last. Maybe you didn't, because you recognize the setup, but the odds are that's because you fell for it the first time you heard it, whenever that was. Most people do. There's no shame in it. It's just a simple manipulation of the way our minds interpret data and retrieve stored information. So if your mind can be manipulated in one way, who's to say it can't be manipulated in another? Back to the crashed plane in Germany. You haven't consciously been thinking about it, but it's been whiling away in the back of your mind. Your subconscious, considering the geopolitical ramifications, who might have had the fastest first responders, whether there was any international law that governed such situations. Where would they have buried the survivors? Of course, burying the survivors would have been fairly psychotic behavior, don't you think? Who wants to be buried alive? One more just to prove the point. If a red house is made with red bricks and a blue house is made with blue bricks, what is a green house made with? You probably saw that one coming. But even then, it was because you were looking out for the trick. Which means if you weren't, then it probably would have worked. You can be tricked. Everyone can be. And sometimes hypnosis is like that. So the only matter would be finding the trick that worked on you. But here's the thing. While most people think of hypno as trickery, and sure, sometimes it is, they get it wrong when it comes to the intent and effect. Most of the time, hypnosis isn't a trick. It's not designed to take over your mind, blank you out, and make you do things without realizing. It's a collaborative process, wherein I help you reach a goal you're already aiming at. That can be experiencing a sexual fantasy in trance, making you more confident in social situations, quitting a nasty habit, or just feeling better about yourself. Not only would I not have to trick you to affect those outcomes, but the attempt would often work against the goal. If you have a problem with social anxiety, for example, then the moment you think I'm manipulating you, there's no way I'm going to be able to help. You won't trust me and will block any suggestions I make. Let's try another experiment. Close your eyes if you've not done so already, and hold your arms comfortably out in front of you, with your palms facing one another. Imagine that there are powerful magnets in your hands, pulling them together. No trick here. I'm just asking you to imagine it. You know exactly what's going on. You're fully conscious, and you realize you can stop at any time you want. But indulge me. Keep your eyes closed and feel those magnets pulling your hands closer and closer together. The closer your hands get, the stronger the pull becomes. And now imagine that there's a large rubber band around your hands, forcing them closer and closer together. You can feel the tension of it on your skin. And now, add my hands on the outside of yours, gently pushing them closer and closer. You're probably stronger than me. You could overpower me if you really wanted, but just go with it. Indulge me. Feel the magnets pulling together, the rubber band constricting, and my hands on the outside of yours, pushing them closer and closer together. Open your eyes. Are your hands as far apart as they were? Are they closer? Did they touch? You can relax them now and let them fall in your lap if you like. All that was a small demonstration of basic suggestibility. All the way through, you were conscious. All the way through, you knew what was happening. All the way through, you could have resisted. But just with me whispering suggestions in your ear, your hands got closer together. And even if they didn't, you could imagine the three things I described perfectly well. And if you did resist, if you stubbornly held your hands apart in defiance, consider that you had to make a conscious decision to do that. You had to think about not complying. When was the last time you had to consciously think about what to do with your hands? You don't think about the physical action when you type a text message. You don't think when you masturbate. You don't think when you drink a glass of whatever it is that cows drink. So why in this instance Whether your hands touched, moved closer, or stayed where they were you actively thinking about what they were doing? Why do you think, even after I explained the trick earlier, that you just pictured a glass of milk rather than a glass of water? Because I made you, obviously. There was no big induction, no dreamy countdown, no finger snaps, no trigger words or power phrases. I just told you to imagine something, and it really doesn't matter what your hands ended up doing, because getting you to imagine was the whole point. There were no magnets, no rubber bands, no me pushing your hands together, but you acted as if there were. So now, you know you can be tricked. You know you can miss inaccuracies, even when you know what they are. You can say something that isn't accurate, even when you have the correct answer. And you know your thoughts, and even your physical actions, can be directed by as small an external influence as me talking to you. I gotta be honest, sweetie. It sounds an awful lot like you can be hypnotized to me. Have you ever been convinced by a salesman to buy something that you later regretted? How do you think that worked? They didn't snap their fingers or wave a pendant about, but they got you to do something you didn't really want to do. Put another way, they manipulated you into action just by talking to you. The problem you've got isn't that you can't be hypnotized. Anyone can be. It's part of the human condition. The problem is that you view hypnosis as something it rarely is. You know the classic idea of me hypnotizing you to be a mindless drone. Do you really think you'd actually be mindless in that scenario? Do you think if a fire broke out, you'd stand there mindlessly crisping away unless I specifically told you to stop being burned alive? Come on. When you're playing at being my drone, it's because you want to play. Sometimes people get upset when I mention words like pretend, but of course you really know all the way through that you're not actually mindless and devoid of independent thought. What you can do when you're practiced is akin to meditation. Acknowledge that random and specific thoughts are always going to occur to you. Your brain doesn't switch off even when you're sleeping, but just allow those thoughts to leave as easily as they arrived and aim for the relaxation of tranquility. Once you're able to do that, there's no limit to what you can achieve with hypnosis. And until then, well, have you ever heard that pretending to be hypnotized is the same as actually being hypnotized? I know, it sounds like bullshit. But say you came to my office because you wanted to quit smoking. And as far as you were concerned, you were just pretending to be hypnotized, and it didn't really work. Well, part of your pretense would be not smoking, wouldn't it? And at that point, what would it matter if I'd actually hypnotized you or not? We reached the goal. Now that being said, you'd better believe that over time, I can absolutely condition you to the extent where you crave my direction, where you despair in its absence, and where just the sound of me giving you a command stimulates the pleasure receptors in your brain. But that takes time, and it's certainly not going to be the result of some random 10-minute hypno you found online. As a final thought, I want you to imagine yourself reading a book. Any book you like, anywhere you like. Just you holding a physical book in your hands, your eyes moving left to right, down one page, then down the other. Enjoying the text, losing yourself in the narrative, as you get to the last word on the second page, what do you do? Do you think about turning the page, or do you just do it? It's not the physical action that's important in that moment. It's the fact that your mind is wherever the author wants it to be. You're entranced by their words. Try this. Imagine yourself watching TV. God, I hope you don't like reality TV. My estimation of you will just plummet. But you're sat at home, watching your favorite show, being attracted to actors, being engrossed by story, being shocked by violence, being titillated by sex scenes. How often does the thought cross your mind that you're sat watching a plastic box displaying two-dimensional moving images of people pretending to be other people on a soundstage? Is it ever? Or do you just allow yourself to be transported to Westeros, Tatooine, the Renaissance, the Inquisition, trenches at Flanders or Vietnam? Do you allow yourself to get scared by monster movies and laugh at screwball comedies? Do you worry if they're going to hurt the dog? It's all manipulation. You tune into the fantasy and zone out of reality. And again, if there's something that requires your attention, you can pause, stand up, and walk away. But you choose not to. You choose to let yourself be manipulated for your own entertainment. Did you cheer when Captain America picked up Thor's hammer? First of all, fuck you, because you shouldn't talk in the cinema, and there's a special level of hell just waiting for you and the people that play on their phones while I'm trying to watch the movie. But in that moment, when people were so excited that a fictional character picked up a mythical weapon and threw it at an evil purple man, do you think any of them were thinking about Chris Evans' performance, the CGI on Thanos, or the cumulative effect of 10 years worth of storytelling? Or were they simply entranced? That's what hypnosis is. Entrancement. Not a lack of focus, not a loss of control, not being a mindless idiot. It can lead to all those things, but that's not the base. The base is collaborative. You have to choose to engage with the movie, engross yourself in the book, and lose yourself in the hypno. Here's one last thing to consider before we wrap up. Right here, right now. You can choose to say thank you in the comments, and you can choose not to. But you understand now, because I've introduced the idea. You'll have to make a conscious effort to disobey. You know that. I haven't forced you to do it, but I have forced you to consider it. Imagine what else I could force you to consider. And then, as you consider whether or not to write thank you in the comments, ask yourself this after everything I've just explained. After you've accepted that you can miss things, after you've accepted that you can be tricked, after you've accepted that you can be manipulated, how exactly would you be able to tell if I had hypnotized you? There's a thought that's gonna fester. Now say, thank you in the comments, sweetie. Indulge me.